This video explores the Opium Wars as case study of 19th century imperialism. Between 1830s and 1860s, Britain used military force to impose free trade demands on King China, leading to unequal treaties, territorial loss, and long-lasting political and social consequences. Understanding these conflicts helps us analyze colonial dynamics from both the colonizers and the colonized society's perspectives.
The Opium War came as a product of British efforts to expand the opium market into China. This was done not only because of the constant need for resources that came as a product of the Industrial Revolution, but also because of Britain faced a severe trade imbalance because its demands for Chinese tea and silk were enormous, while China wanted few British goods. The Chinese government refused to allow the opium market to enter the country, arguing that it would serve to corrupt the citizens and harm public health. However, despite its protest, the fact that China had been isolated for years now, and therefore it had fallen behind when it came to industrialization, gave the British military an even greater chance to successfully invade China and force the Chinese government to allow the opium trade to enter the nation. This is the beginning of what would be later called by China as the Century of Humiliation. According to Britannica, the way that the opium trade would work in China, at first at least, was that Britain would smuggle the opium that had been grown in the then British-controlled India into China to balance their previously mentioned trade deficit. As mentioned previously, opium was illegal in China, but a network of willing traders grew whom took the opium from the British East India Company, smuggled it into Chinese ports, and distributed it through corrupt local officials. This was all before they were forced to legalize it, but it gives you an idea of the general framework of the whole system. Instead, that it later became far more open trading into the ports, especially through Hong Kong. The Qing government, led by Commissioner Lin Sexu, tried to suppress opium due to rising social, economic, and health problems. In response, Britain deployed superior steam-powered warships and forced China into military defeat. The resulting unequal treaties, including the Treaty of Nanking in 1842, imposed fixed tariffs, legalized the opium trade, opened treaty ports, and forced China to cede Hong Kong. Extraterritorial courts allowed foreigners to be tried under their own laws, limiting Chinese sovereignty. These humiliations destabilized the Qing state and contributed to massive internal uprisings, such as the Taiping Rebellion.
China is and was a real strong and powerful nation, but thanks to the excessive sale and excessive use of drugs, their society got really weak. This only intensified after the British invasion, where they lost Hong Kong, one of the most important cities of China, and also the Qing dynasty that was really important for China got really weak after the Opium Wars. They were forced to use international trade and to rethink the way they related with the other countries. Also, one of the main reasons why they got such easily invaded and had such a hard time freeing itself is because they were not industrialized. Well, not at least as the level of the biggest European empires and their colonizers. They had to level up their weapons and they had to industrialize themselves so they could compete on war. And that took so much time, so that's why they had such a hard time freeing themselves.
To further delve in the loss of Hong Kong to the British Empire, which marked a significant point in the Opium War, it is also important to mention the reason why they did this. Hong Kong served as a strategic point of the British Empire that had various uses, but mainly it served as a hub for the trade of opium. This is according to Cambridge. The British also used it as a military base for the naval forces, and this is according to Dai Mun Ka. British rule continued in Hong Kong until July 1st, 1997, where control was given back to China under the One Country, Two Systems framework.
Our reflection question was why it's necessary to critically reflect on nations' colonial past. And our answer was that it's really important to reflect and investigate on big nations' past because it shows part of our identity. Maybe we're not Chinese, but it's part of our history of our world. A history that has been built up for thousands or even millions of years, and where every single event is a building block to the world we live today. Another reason is that we can actually learn from these happenings and we can prevent them to happen again, so we can evolve as a species.